Hi. Hola.
Hi, here's Mr. Dozy.
This is Michael Bradley.
Hey, I'm Memphis.
Hey.
Hola. Hello.
I'm here with soccer.com.
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 And I'm talking with my friends soccer.com.
See you soon.
Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my first impressions plus on-feet video of the brand new Adidas X16 Plus Pure Chaos. Now it does come in a drawer style box. Pull the drawer open, and on the inside they do include a couple of extras. The first thing you get is an extra set of comfort insoles to go along with the perforated, thinner, lightweight ones already included inside the shoes. The insole features a synthetic suede liner, has the Pure Chaos branding right there in black, and it's just made from a solid, slightly thicker black foam than what you're going to find on the ones already inside the shoes. They also include a string bag. The string bag is pretty straightforward, black perforated mesh, black strings, and then of course you have the Adidas logo and the X logo on either side. Other than that, all you're going to find inside the box, as you guys can see, are the shoes themselves. So we'll get these guys out of the box really quickly, and we'll take a closer look at what is a really interesting release from Adidas, the new X16 Plus Pure Chaos. Now this is one of several top-end models that will be available for the new Adidas X16 lineup, this being the most expensive of the top-end models with a retail price of $300 US. Obviously a complete redesign in comparison to the X15.1, every variation of that shoe. They essentially scrapped everything, so it shares nothing in common with previous X models aside from a few small little things. But for the most part, it's a very interesting shoe. I'm excited to try them out. There's lots of new, interesting, kind of never been done before things about this particular model that I'm going to cover in this video. And also, something I've been hearing a lot about, this shoe does have laces. It is not a laceless model like the A16 Plus Pure Control. This has laces on the inside, it just has a big lace cover. So we're going to go over all the details and tech specs in today's video. So if you are interested in learning more, please stick around, watch the entire video because we're going to go over, like I said, absolutely everything. If you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, they are available now. You can check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. And on that page, you will find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $300 retail price. So if you're interested in a pair, again, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. And with that being said, let's get right into the review. To start things off, let's go over all the tech specs and break down the different layers of the X16 Plus Pure Chaos, because the pictures that we've seen and the press release info from Adidas isn't all that clear in terms of explaining what this shoe is all about. Now, the reason why I say that is because what you actually see from the outside isn't necessarily what you're going to feel on the inside. Like I mentioned, the shoe does actually have laces. They're just covered up by this shroud, and based on how the shoe looks, you would assume that this silver material on the outside is the actual upper. But unless you're talking about this front part in front of this actual seam, the part from this seam back, this silver part isn't the upper. It's just a shroud that goes over top, a lace cover, if you will, an extra layer of material that is completely independent of the upper material on the inside. So the majority of the upper is actually this orange part that you see right here at the ankle, Achilles, and front of the foot area. This is their Tech Fit material that does take up the majority of the upper. It's not necessarily prime knit, but it's an elasticated knitted material, as you guys can see. It does have some decent stretch to it, but it's pretty tightly woven, so it's under a lot of tension, so it's not going to stretch a ton, but what you'll find is that when you slide your foot inside, it'll stretch and then kind of squeeze it back into place. So it has a nice secure sensation wrapping your foot. And that's something they're kind of touting in the tech specs of this particular shoe, is that it doesn't require much break-in time and it fits unlike anything else. And based on what I've tried so far, they do fit really well. It's not one of those shoes that is going to change much after the break-in time, and that's because the part that is wrapping the majority of your foot is this elasticated material. So when you slide your foot inside, the first thing you're really going to notice about this shoe is that it's pretty difficult to put on, and it's pretty difficult to take off as well. But it fits really nicely. It's a tighter fitting shoe, as I think you would expect from the X line, but completely different in comparison to the previous X15.1 and really any of the variations that we had. So this Tech Fit material isn't just around the ankle area, it runs all the way through up until this seam right here. If I kind of push this piece down, you can see how far it extends on the inside of the shoe, so it wraps across the top of your foot, and it's basically an internal elasticated sock that fits your foot quite nicely. Where the laces come into play, there aren't actually lace holes on the upper. Instead, you can see it right here, you have these kind of nylon V-shaped or upside down V straps that basically run like this from the base of the sole that allow for actual places for the laces to attach on the outside of that elasticated shroud. So the shroud itself is elasticated, the internal piece is elasticated, then you have the nylon straps on the inside that are fixed to the bottom of the sole plate as well as at the sides of the elasticated part, and that's what's going to give you that little bit of extra lockdown. The shoe fits obviously pretty tight even without pulling the laces, and then when you do pull on those laces, it secures everything in place through the midfoot and keeps your foot locked in quite well with not really any extra discomfort or any kind of pressure points from the cable system. It's similar to Nike's Flywire, but without the use of an actual cable, more of a kind of nylon ribbon, if you will. And the laces don't extend very far. They're basically 3 spots, so they connect here, here, and here. So pretty far down on the shoe, which is something that I was a little bit worried about. Normally you'd want the lace to go almost right up to where your ankle starts. That's not the case on this particular shoe. Heel slippage was something I was a little bit concerned with, but once I actually got them on my feet, it just wasn't a concern. The shoe fits really, really well, and it's pretty well designed given the fact that the laces end so far down through the middle of the shoe, and the laces are positioned centrally for those that are wondering as well. So basically, that is what the majority of the upper is for the front 2/3 or the back 2/3 of the shoe, and then you have this silver material acting as a shroud or lace cover over top, and it has some thickness to it. It's pretty much the same X-Skin synthetic that we had on the original synthetic X15.1, but obviously it is covering up the laces and just giving you a more consistent, not so much touch, but more consistent feel on the ball across the entire foot. Yes, it's covering the laces, and there is, I guess, some benefit to that, but for the most part, it's not going to improve your control or anything like that. It's just going to give you, like I said, a more consistent feel across the top of the foot in terms of how the ball makes contact with the shoe, I guess. More consistent grip, I guess is the best way to put it. You have this little stitching right here, and that's basically just to connect the shroud part of the upper and the silver part at the front, which is the actual upper. There's no tech fit in this particular area of the shoe. This is just that straight up kind of X-Skin synthetic, very reminiscent of what we had on the synthetic upper of the X15.1. It does have a little bit of padding lining the inside as well. It's thin, but not super thin. It's not that like super pingy kind of barefoot sensation you get from something like a Nike Mercurial Vapor 10. It's thin, but just with that little bit of padding to kind of take the edge off, if you will. So the finish on the upper, as you guys can see, it does have this kind of interesting design to it, and that does add some texturing. You also do have the non-stop grip dots, which you can see has more prominent branding right now. It says NSG non-stop grip, it says Tech Fit, and then you have the X logo as well. Essentially what those grip dots are supposed to be is kind of Adidas's answer to ACC, all conditions control technology. This is a carryover to what we have seen on the X15.1, the Ace 15.1, and the current Ace 16 lineup. They've all had it. It's a pretty minor feature, not really going to make or break your experience with the shoe in my opinion, but in terms of the finish of the upper, it does have not necessarily a grippy finish to it, but it does feel slightly kind of rubberized. So a little bit more grippy on the ball than what we found on the X15.1, but for the most part, also very similar to that shoe in regards to grip, if that makes any sense. It's just a touch more rubbery as opposed to a little bit more plasticky, which is kind of what we got with the previous model. Now moving on to the back of the shoe, you're gonna find that it does have a little bit of kind of a higher cut at the ankle. It's not a mid-cut shoe like Nike. It's basically just a low-cut shoe with a little bit of an extension piece in the form of this collar. It's not something that you really feel when you're wearing it, but you will notice that the collar in the heel area, the tendon area, is a little bit different. This is supposed to be shared from the Adidas Ultra Boost, which is a running shoe from the brand, very, very popular. I'm sure a lot of you guys are not familiar with what I'm talking about. I have done a review of that shoe on my channel, but it reminds me a lot of the PrimeKnit 2.0 model, for those that can remember that shoe. I'll leave an annotation on screen to that as well, where basically it extends a little bit higher up and then it kind of curves back a little bit. This is just to allow for a little bit more comfort and less friction in general at the back part of the shoe, and it feels pretty good. The actual heel liner has some really good padding to it. It's made from this super soft kind of synthetic suede material, similar to what we see on the Comfort insole variation. And then you can also see it does have these little silver grip dots running down the back, which is what they call their Pure Chaos liner. That does a really good job of actually gripping your sock to the point where, like I said, it does make it difficult to put on the shoe and take it off. But like I said, once your foot is in there, it does a really good job of keeping your heel locked in place, and heel slippage is not an issue whatsoever. A big improvement over the previous X15.1, but it's also a completely different design. My only concern with this is because it is actually a little bit of a coating that they put on top of the liner. I'm concerned with these grip dots perhaps wearing off over time, but until you get lots of time in them, it's kind of impossible to predict that kind of thing. The insole, fully removable. I'll give you guys a quick look at that. This is the lightweight one included in the shoes. You have the extra set as well if you prefer something a little bit more cushioned, but basically it's just a mesh liner, perforations throughout, and it's a single layer of this kind of orange foam, pretty thin, but you get the idea. Nothing really unusual for Adidas. They've been doing this for quite some time now with those insoles. And then of course, they've reverted back to the sprint frame. So they've completely ditched the sole plate that we had on the original X15.1 with the little cutouts. This has the external heel counter as you would expect with the sprint frame. There's me recording the video if you wonder what that looks like. But it does have basically the same design that we've come to expect from the sprint frame with just some slight variation, little texturing that's basically there for cosmetic reasons. It does have the stiffener bars through the middle. Again, slightly different design, but same basic principle in terms of how it actually feels. And then the stud patterns, again, same sprint frame layout, slightly different shaped studs, and it is still FG/AG, so you can use this on both firm natural grass as well as artificial grass, although definitely more of a firm ground stud pattern in my opinion, as opposed to a true AG stud pattern. But again, you can use them basically on either of those two surfaces without worry of injury, performance variation, and obviously the shoe should hold up fine on artificial grass as well. But the studs themselves, they're kind of more rounded as opposed to bladed, as you guys can see. Reminds me a lot of what you get on the Messy 15.1, so I don't expect it to perform that much differently than pretty much any other Adidas variation with this stud layout. But like I said, a little bit different than what we got on the X15.1. Different sole plate altogether, which is going to make the shoe a little bit lighter. And overall, I think this is a really interesting package. I'm excited to try these out. I'm excited to get more time in them. It fits really well. It's different from anything else that I've personally ever tried, and it's something truly unique out of the Adidas brand, which I think they tried to do with the original X15.1, which was a good shoe with its flaws. But with this X16 Plus Pure Chaos, I think that they truly have something unique, and there's reason to be excited about it. In terms of weight, I thought we'd compare the X16 Plus Pure Chaos to the synthetic X15.1, the previous model, to see what the weight difference is given the design changes that they've made. So I'm going to weigh both shoes for you today in real time using this scale. Keep in mind they are both in brand new condition and both the exact same size 9 US, so this is a very fair comparison. We'll start off with the X15.1, throw them on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.8 ounces. The equivalent of 221 grams. So right at the 8 ounce mark approximately. Remember those numbers. We'll pull these off and we'll throw on the Pure Chaos, and you can see that they weigh in at 6.95 ounces, 197 grams, essentially right at the 7 ounce mark, which is about a full ounce lighter than the previous X15.1. I think you can credit a lot of that to the inclusion of a sprint frame this time around. That is going to shave a lot of weight off of the shoe. And in comparison to other, I guess, popular, super new, high-end, expensive soccer shoes, a Superfly 5 in the same size weighs in at about 6.6 ounces. So 0.4 ounces less, a little bit lighter, but still very lightweight in general. And if you're looking for that lightweight feel from your shoes, the X16 Plus Pure Chaos will provide that for you. As far as aesthetics go, the X16 Plus Pure Chaos is a really unique looking shoe. There's no doubt about that. Obviously, it replaces the X15.1, which had a pretty controversial launch in terms of how that shoe looks. Some people loved it. A lot of people absolutely hated it. And I think a lot of people have pretty strong opinions on the look of this shoe as well. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments section. Personally, I'm generally not a fan of super flashy colorways, and this is kind of more flashy, being that it is a metallic silver for the majority of the upper, and it has a mirror finish chrome sole plate. But honestly, the lace cover, the shroud, the general shape of the shoe, the extended tendon collar at the back here, just the way it looks in general, it's a very futuristic looking shoe, and I kind of like that. It's a shoe that, until I saw it in person, I didn't really know what to think of it, but now that I have them in my hands, I kind of like the look of this shoe, and I'm excited to see it in more colorways. Not that this one looks bad at all. You can see that the actual kind of tech fit collar area does have a combination of different shades of oranges and reds. It is technically a solar red color, but basically a bright orange in person, for those that are wondering. You have the black Adidas branding, which is basically the only Adidas branding on the shoe that you're gonna be able to see aside from that little logo right there. And that is fully reflective as well, so that's kind of a cool little detail. The silver part, as you guys can see, is kind of like semi-metallic aside from the sole plate, which is kind of more of a mirrored chrome, and it has this interesting design running through it. Almost looks like claws tearing through like a cloth or something like that. Really cool design, obviously fits the chaos theme of the X line in general. You have the X branding, the Tech Fit branding, the non-stop grip branding, kind of subtly placed there, silver on the medial side of the shoe. This looks a little bit goofy from the back, where you have the shroud kind of just ending abruptly. It's stitched, so nothing can really get in there, but there is kind of a gap, because at the end of the day, this is just kind of a cover piece for what is essentially a Tech Fit upper. And then of course you have the Sprint frame. It does come with a little warning sticker that I pulled off already, just because they were basically falling off. That does let you know that the finish on the sole plate will wear off over time, similar to the Ace 16 Plus Pure Control, the laceless model, and the fancy finishes that you get on those sole plates. But if it's anything like those sole plates, it shouldn't wear away all that quickly. Although you can see on this one, this is a brand new pair, and it's already starting to chip here at the edge. So that's a bit of a shame, but something that will happen over time inevitably should you wear them, and honestly not something I think you should concern yourself with all that much. But nonetheless, really interesting looking shoe. Let me know what you guys think of these down below in the comment section. Do you like how they look? Why or why not? And with that being said, let's move on to the on-feet portion of the video so we can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit, and of course what the sizing is like. All right, so here is a look at the X16 Plus Pure Chaos on feet. And from the top down view, this angle, they do look a little bit strange, I will say that, but they actually feel pretty good. The one thing I will say about this kind of lace cover shroud system is that it does hide the laces, but it's still thin and it fits pretty tight. So you still see the little bit of kind of the lumps on where the laces actually are. And you can see I've tucked the laces inside, and that does create a lump in the side of the shoe as well. So you can wear them with the laces out if you choose, but I think if you have the lace shroud, you might as well tuck them in. There is definitely space for the leftover lace to fit inside of the shoe. So the overall way these things fit and feel on feet, they're pretty comfortable from right out of the box. I actually really like them. It's a very different feel in comparison to the X15.1. Almost nothing feels the same in comparison to that shoe. The Tech Fit collar, like I said, it does make it a little bit tricky to put the shoes on and take them off. But once you kind of get the hang of it, you do it a couple times, it's really not that big of a deal at all. And the way they fit on your feet is really, really nice. The elasticated Tech Fit part of the upper wraps your foot really nicely. It stretches and then compresses back once your foot is inside the shoe, so it has a nice snug feel in general. And then when you pull the laces tight, basically that just locks everything in place. The shoe doesn't feel quite as well structured as something like a Mercurial Superfly 5, for example, which I guess would be the main competitor for this particular model, but it still feels pretty secure given the circumstances of what the design actually is. But it doesn't have a super, super tight sensation, which you can get from something like a Mercurial, so just keep that in mind. As far as the upper and the forefoot area, where there aren't any laces, it feels nice and soft, very flexible, pretty much identical, honestly, to what you had on the regular X15.1 in the synthetic upper variation. So that really remains unchanged, and I didn't have any complaints about that area of that shoe either, so that's not an issue whatsoever. And then in the heel area, you have this interesting cut at the back with a little extension piece. I don't love how that looks, but it does actually feel quite good. No discomfort in the heel, no slippage whatsoever. Those little grip dots that they put going down the back of the heel liner really do a good job of gripping the sock and just holding your foot in place really nicely. So heel slippage is not an issue. Again, the only concern I have with the grip dot element is the longevity of it. Will it wear off over time? I don't really know, only time will tell. The sole plate also feels very good, a lot more flexible than what we got from the X15.1 and its sole plate, and pretty reminiscent of what we've seen from Adidas over the last couple of years. If you've worn a sprint frame shoe, this sprint frame really won't feel any different. As far as width is concerned, it is still a tighter fitting shoe overall, but will be suitable for most people. The opening isn't the biggest, but once you get your foot inside, there is a decent amount of width to the shoe. And as long as you don't have excessively wide feet, I don't foresee any major issues as far as discomfort is concerned. And as far as actual stretch that you get from the upper, it'll give a little bit in the forefoot area, given that there aren't any laces there. But that stitching going across the middle of the forefoot is definitely going to restrict some stretching in that area of the shoe. So keep that in mind. It's not a particularly stretchy material as far as permanently stretching. The Tech Fit collar will stretch and then kind of bounce back to its original shape. And given the kind of toughness of the material, I just don't foresee it overstretching in the long run. So definitely something worth noting. And as far as sizing is concerned, I went with my usual size 9 US, same size I wore in the previous X models, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. All right, guys, that is it for my first impressions of the new Adidas X16 Plus Pure Chaos. This is a shoe that, in all honesty, I didn't think too much of based on the press release, but now that I have them in my hands, I've had kind of the opportunity to take a closer look and try them on. It's a shoe that I'm genuinely excited about. It's very unique, it's very different, but in a good way. It's a shoe that I look forward to getting a lot more time in and expect to see a lot more content on this particular shoe, as well as all of the other new Adidas models very, very soon on this channel. So if you guys are interested in more info on the shoe, be sure to check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you'll find the high quality images of this exact pair that I took myself. That'll give you a better idea as to how these actually do look in person. And of course, you'll also find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes. We'll be able to pick them up below their normal $300 retail price. If you have any questions at all regarding this particular shoe, leave them down below in the comments and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, thanks for watching.